After earning a full scholarship and graduating with honors, my family skipped the ceremony. They just messaged, "That doesn't make you smart." My response, a single photo, silenced them instantly. There's something strangely dreamlike about sitting there in a cap and gown while a crowd of strangers cheers for you, and realizing the people who should care most didn't even bother to show up. I remember scanning the rows of faces, hearing the applause, and thinking, this would have been an amazing moment if I didn't feel like a ghost drifting through my own life. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Evan, small-town kid, the quiet one at every family dinner. The guy who got called over to fix the Wi-Fi, but somehow never made it into the family photos. I was the third of 4 kids, a middle child by geography, a background character by destiny. My older sister, Laura, was the family prodigy. Valedictorian, dance team captain, once got applauded just for parallel parking. My younger brother, Jake, was the golden boy. Football MVP, homecoming king, the kind of guy who could get a tattoo and have mom and dad act like he'd won a Nobel Prize. And me? I was the that's nice kid. When I brought home a 4.0 GPA and a full scholarship offer from the state university, my mom just said, "Well, at least you won't be a burden." That was as close as I ever got to a congratulations. Honestly, I didn't expect much else. Our family had this unspoken code. Attention wasn't given, it was earned, and only if you shined in ways people could brag about. If you were loud, showy, or wore a varsity jacket, you were golden. But if you kept your head down and worked hard in silence, you were basically the fridge light, useful, unseen, and only noticed when you stopped working. I started picking up part-time jobs at 15, bagging groceries, bussing tables, stocking shelves at a hardware store. I'd study in the break room with a busted TI-83 calculator and a bag of off-brand pretzels. People stared sometimes. Eventually, I stopped noticing. When that full-ride letter came, books, tuition, housing, everything covered, I cried in the dorm bathroom that first night. Not because I was scared, but because it finally felt like maybe, just maybe, I was going to be okay. Like I'd finally gotten far enough away from being disposable. For years flew by. I majored in architecture and minored in surviving on cold pizza and dollar store ramen. I interned, networked, even did small freelance projects to build savings. By senior year, I wasn't just scraping by, I was thriving. Dean's List, job offers waiting, credit score higher than Jake's GPA had ever been. But as graduation got closer, I started to notice the silence. No calls, no texts, no, "Can't wait to see you walk that stage." Just nothing. A week before the ceremony, I sent a message to our family group chat, the one ironically named Fam Squad. I wrote, "Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know my graduation's Saturday at 2 p.m. I'll be giving a short speech. Would love to see you there." 3 hours later, one reply. Not from mom. Not from dad. From Laura. She texted, "That doesn't make you smart, you know. Degrees are just paper," followed by a laughing emoji and a gif of someone tossing money in the air. That was it. No congrats. No, "we'll be there." Just that. Their version of an RSVP. I sat on my bed in my rehearsal robe, staring at my phone like it had personally insulted me. For half a second, I thought maybe it was a joke, maybe they were planning something. But I knew better. This wasn't new. This was the final note in a lifelong symphony of being brushed aside. What they didn't know, though, was that I had a surprise of my own. Something bigger than a diploma. Something they couldn't dismiss with a smirk. While they were ignoring me, I'd been closing on my first house. Yeah, 22 years old, full scholarship, 0 debt, and a 2-bedroom fixer-upper with my name on the loan. No family help, no inheritance, just grit, spreadsheets, and too many nights fueled by instant noodles. After that group chat message, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. Not out of anger, not revenge, just clarity. It was time for them to finally see me. Graduation day came. I adjusted my cap, straightened my gown, and looked in the mirror. I looked like someone who was supposed to be proud, someone with a future. But underneath, I felt like someone pretending not to notice the one thing missing: support. I showed up early, mostly to avoid walking past proud parents waving signs that said, "We love you, Mia," or "Our boy made it." I couldn't compete with that energy, not when my own family chat was still dead silent except for Laura's smug text. I sat through lineup, checked my phone like some emotional masochist, and let the ceremony roll. Names were called, cheers erupted, Cameras flashed. When mine was called, I crossed the stage to polite applause from people who didn't know I was there alone. I held my diploma like proof of survival, not just of college, but of every quiet battle it took to get there. Then came the speech. Yeah, I was one of the student speakers. The dean said they wanted something short and inspiring. I was chosen for my GPA, my community work, and the fact that I'd interned at 3 firms while keeping straight A's. I stood at the podium, facing a sea of faces, parents craning their necks, grandparents wiping tears, balloons bobbing above them. No familiar faces for me, but I smiled anyway. They say college is where you find yourself. I began. But sometimes it's where you build yourself, piece by piece, out of nothing but pressure and persistence. People nodded. A few clapped. Some of us had cheerleaders, I said, and some of us had silence. Some of us had trust funds, and some of us had coupon apps and part-time jobs. The crowd laughed. Someone even said, "Facts." I went on. But if you're sitting here today, you built something. And no one can take that away from you, not even silence. More applause. A few teary eyes. But I didn't look for anyone in particular. I was done doing that. When the ceremony ended, classmates melted into hugs with their families. I found my phone. Still nothing. "No, sorry we couldn't make it. No, we're proud of you." Just one new message. From my dad. It read, "Hope you didn't waste money on a suit. Nobody cares about speeches. Just get a job." And that was my curtain call. I stared at it for a full minute, then took a slow breath, opened my photo gallery, and posted the picture I'd been saving. It was me standing in front of a freshly painted little house, the sold sign still in the yard. Diploma in one hand, keys in the other. The caption read, "No one had to care. I did anyway." Then I hit send. Silence. Not even a seen notification for 20 minutes, which, if you've ever been in a family chat, you know is basically an earthquake. When the typing bubble appeared under my mom's name, and I immediately locked my phone. I didn't need whatever guilt-flavored message they were about to serve to go with their absence. I deserved to enjoy this day, even if I was the only one cheering for me. So I headed to my car, sat behind the wheel, and stared again at the photo of the house on my screen. Not bad for the quiet one, huh? If you've never witnessed a family group chat implode in real time, let me tell you, it's a surreal experience when you're the reason it's happening. Especially after 4 years of being treated like a background extra. It started with Mom. Typing. Stopping. Typing again. Like she was negotiating a ceasefire. Finally. "Why would you post something like that, Evan? No congratulations. No, we're proud of you." Just a familiar cocktail of guilt, confusion, and disappointment, as if I'd posted a mugshot instead of a picture of me standing in front of a freshly painted 2-bedroom I bought with zero help. I didn't respond. Then came Laura, my sister, queen of condescension, crowned champion of the Golden Child Olympics. "Are you trying to flex?" That's kinda desperate, not gonna lie. There it was. If they couldn't celebrate something, they had to minimize it. And then Dad chimed in. "No one likes a show-off, son. Remember your roots." My roots? You mean those weekends I spent bagging groceries while Jake was off at travel ball, and you called me the frugal one, like it was my superhero name? Sure thing, Dad. I'll remember. Still, I said nothing. Not because I didn't have comebacks locked and loaded. I did, but because something had shifted. I wasn't the kid craving their approval anymore. Then, out of nowhere, my cousin Josh, the only one who ever bothered to ask what I wanted to be growing up, popped in. "You bought a house? Damn. Respect, man." Followed by Aunt Carol. "Good for you, sweetheart. That's so grown up." I actually smiled for half a second before the group chat turned icy again, like someone had switched the emotional thermostat to winter. It was almost like those 2 kind messages violated some sacred ignore Evan pact. That's when Jake, my younger brother, former football MVP, current used car philosopher, jumped in. "We didn't come to your graduation, 'cause Mom said you didn't want attention. Don't act surprised now." The revisionist history special. Classic move. I never said I didn't want attention. I said I didn't want drama. Big difference. But now, apparently, I was the reason they ghosted my graduation. I waited for the next punch, and right on schedule, Laura hit send again. "You've always been like this. Acting like you're better than us, just 'cause you read books, or whatever." Oh great. Literacy, the latest moral failure. Still, I didn't take the bait. Instead, I scrolled through my graduation speech notes and reread the part about building yourself from nothing. Not for approval, not for applause, just because you knew you could. Then I muted the chat. After that, I called my realtor. Because while they were busy drowning in guilt and jealousy soup, I had an inspection to schedule and an estimate to get. This house wasn't revenge. Okay, maybe 10% revenge. But 90% of it was freedom. An end to the cycle, to the silence, to the constant begging for scraps of validation. Every square foot of that place was paid for with sleepless nights, group projects, double shifts, coupon codes, and exactly 0 handouts. And I wasn't about to let a few guilt-soaked messages ruin the peace I'd finally earned. So let them spiral. Let them rewrite the narrative. I had floors to sand, a future to renovate, and a front door no one else had keys to. After muting the family chat, I did what any newly minted homeowner would do. Spent 3 days deep cleaning a microwave that looked like it had survived the Cold War. No idea what the previous owners cooked in there, but I'm fairly certain it once had a pulse. I mowed the patchy lawn, bought a used couch off a guy named Curtis who showed me 20 photos of his cat's birthday party, and even assembled a bookshelf without crying. So yeah, I was thriving. My plan was to settle in quietly. No Instagram reveal, no, just moved in. TikTok tour. I wasn't interested in sharing this chapter with people who pretended the last one didn't exist. Then, 2 weeks after moving in, I got a text from my best friend, Caleb. Yo, tell me you're having a housewarming. Don't make me beg. Caleb's been my guy since sophomore year, back when we got locked out of our dorm during a fire drill, in our boxers. He once faked an Uber just to save me from a disaster of a date. So yeah, the man had earned a seat at my table, even if it was an IKEA table I'd built wrong and duct-taped for stability. So I gave in. Fine. This Saturday, 6 p.m., no dress code, no balloons, no chalkboard signs that say home sweet home, or I'm kicking myself out. Caleb replied, got it. I'll bring queso and one person who won't steal forks. That Saturday, my house came alive. 15 people, tops. A few college friends, 2 co-workers from my internship, and my old bookstore manager, the guy who once gave me expired peanut butter and called it finals fuel. No family, not out of bitterness, just clarity. I didn't owe them a seat at this table, not when they mocked every plate I'd ever tried to bring. The night was simple. Music from a Bluetooth speaker that kept cutting out, pizza rolls, root beer floats. At one point we played a game, guessing how many hours I'd spent scraping wallpaper in the guest room. Answer: too many. Then Caleb, sentimental as ever, raised his red Solo cup and said, to Evan, for proving you can build a home even when no one hands you the blueprint. Everyone clapped. I turned red, tried to laugh it off, but deep down, something shifted. This wasn't just a party. This was validation, loud, chaotic, nacho-stained validation. I was handing out napkins I'd folded to look like blueprints. And yeah, I thought I was being clever. Then my phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from Mom. 1 from Dad. A text from Laura. Why are we seeing Instagram stories of your housewarming party? I blinked. I hadn't posted anything. But Caleb had. There it was, a blurry video of me pretending to be Gordon Ramsay, yelling at boxed mac and cheese like it had personally offended me. A selfie of the group crowded around my fireplace. Someone holding up a bowl of queso like it was the Stanley Cup. The caption read, proud of my guy. First house. First step. Big future. Apparently, Laura still followed Caleb, which was wild, considering she once called him the guy whose moral compass came from a cereal box. I mean, yeah, he eats Frosted Flakes at 2 a.m. Let the man live. I stared at the screen, debating whether to respond. Then Mom's message came through. You didn't invite us? After everything? Everything. Right. Everything, like ignoring 4 years of work, brushing off my degree, and calling my house photo bragging. That everything. I didn't respond. I was too busy fixing a wobbly bathroom doorknob and making sure Caleb didn't accidentally microwave a spoon again. Don't ask. But inside, I felt something solid. Not anger, just calm. They weren't upset because they missed me. They were upset because they missed their chance to show up for the photo op. To pose, to smile, to pretend they'd been part of the story. But the truth was, I already had the photo. Me, my friends, laughter, and not 1 ounce of fake enthusiasm. Sunday morning arrived with the smell of burnt toaster waffles and the reminder that I'm not 22 anymore. especially after carrying a second-hand recliner upstairs with a back that cracked like bubble wrap. The housewarming had been perfect in its imperfection, loud, messy, real. I was still laughing at the memory of Caleb falling off the armrest mid-toast when I heard it. Knock, 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 knock. Not a delivery knock. Not a neighbor's mistake. This one had rhythm, entitlement. I peeked through the blinds. There she was. My mother, standing on the porch, clutching a casserole like an offering from Mount Olympus, wearing sunglasses and the kind of tight smile people use when they're pretending everything's fine. Behind her stood my dad, looking like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. And lagging a few steps back, trying to look uninvolved, was Jake. No Laura, which shocked me. I'd half expected her to show up filming it for her family values vlog. I didn't open the door right away. Just stared through the glass at the three people who had ghosted my college years, laughed at my efforts, and ignored every milestone that mattered. Now standing on my porch, clutching a casserole. Eventually, I opened the door, mostly because I didn't want them asking my neighbors if I was out of town. I stayed 6 feet back and said, "Hey." Mom's voice softened. "We saw the photos. Looked like a nice party." I nodded, but didn't say anything. Dad cleared his throat. "We figured it was time we see the place." I raised an eyebrow. "You figured that now?" He paused, clearly not liking my tone. That was always his thing. He'd dish out passive aggression, then play the victim when you gave it back. "We didn't mean to miss the graduation," Mom offered. "We were just going through a lot." I texted. I said plainly, "I invited you." You replied with degrees or just paper. Her mouth tightened. Jake suddenly found the neighbor's mailbox fascinating. "That was Laura, not me," Mom said quickly. And Dad said, "Don't waste money on a suit," I added. My dad looked away. They had nothing to say. Just silence. I let it stretch until it got uncomfortable, then stepped aside slightly. "You can come in. 5 minutes. I've got friends dropping by soon." A lie, but one I didn't feel guilty about. They shuffled inside like awkward guests at an open house. Mom complimented the floorboards like she was at a showing. Dad tapped the wall and said, "Sturdy." Jake perched on the edge of the couch like it might lunge at him. No one mentioned the party. No one asked who came. But I could tell. They were all mentally picking out where they would have sat if they'd been invited. Mom set the casserole on the counter like a peace treaty. "Cheesy potatoes," she said softly. "Your favorite, right?" "Used to be," I replied. Silence thickened. 5 minutes felt like 50. Then Dad spoke. "So you got a loan?" I did. That's a big commitment. Not as big as pretending I didn't exist for 4 years. That hit like a hammer. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, caught between denial and apology, unsure how to do either. Mom tried again, reaching for something to hold on to. "We're still family, Evan." "Yeah," I said. Family that forgot to clap. The quiet that followed was heavy, final. Then I smiled. Not bitterly, just done. "Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I've got a full afternoon." They stood, slow and confused, like tourists getting kicked out of a museum before closing. As I walked them to the door, Jake muttered, "It's a nice house." "Thanks," I said. "Built it without cheers." Then I closed the door. No slam, no drama. Just a firm, steady click. This was my space now, and they didn't own a single inch of it. That night, the house finally felt like mine. Not because of the keys or the deed, but because, for the first time, no one was telling me who I had to be inside it. No echoes of disappointment, no passive-aggressive comments disguised as jokes. Just quiet. And for once, it was the kind that healed instead of hurt. I sat on the couch with a mug of tea, a soft playlist humming in the background, when my phone buzzed. "Laura." I knew better, but I opened it anyway. "So I guess you think you've made it now? A mortgage doesn't make you smart. It makes you a bank's puppet." Classic opener. Then another message followed, because she never knew when to quit. "You'll be begging for help when real life hits. Insurance, plumbing, taxes. You're not built for that. Go ahead and post your little homeowner fantasy." I just stared at the screen, not in shock, not even angry, just disappointed. That even after everything, she still saw my success as a personal attack. I didn't respond, just locked the phone and set it aside. 5 minutes later, it buzzed again. "Enjoy your ego trip while it lasts," Laura texted. Real adulthood's more than a paper degree and 4 walls. It was almost impressive, really, how dedicated she was to missing the point. She wasn't mad I didn't invite them. She was mad I didn't need them. Because if I could build something from nothing, without their hand-holding or approval, then all those years of mockery and condescension weren't guidance. They were just cruelty dressed up as concern. And that realization was something Laura couldn't handle. But I could, because I'd lived it. Alone. The nights I sat under flickering dorm lights trying to make sense of FAFSA forms on a cracked phone screen. The mornings I skipped breakfast to make rent. The busted laptop hinge I taped back together 100 times until the day I graduated. They never saw those parts of the story, and now they didn't get to claim the ending. So I stood up, walked to the small shelf in my hallway, and took down the framed photo that sat waiting there, my diploma and my house deed, side by side. Not as trophies, not as a middle finger, just as a quiet reminder that I did it. On my own, in my own time, without applause. I snapped a clean photo of them. No filters, no captions except one simple line. Degrees don't fix water heaters, but they pay for plumbers. Sent. Then I muted the chat and blocked her number. Not because I was mad, because I was finished. Finished chasing approval from people who wouldn't recognize growth if it texted them first. 10 minutes later, Caleb texted. Yo, was that about Laura? She said I wasn't built for real life. I replied. Tell her real life just sent me your address for the barbecue next weekend. He wrote. You bringing queso? I asked. Is the Pope Catholic? He shot back. I laughed. Because this house, this peace, these dumb inside jokes, this was mine. And no amount of bitterness from the past could compete with the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd built something that was real. Not to prove them wrong, just to prove to myself that they never got to define what success looked like. I did. And I wasn't done building yet. Days passed. No more messages. No calls. No casserole on the porch. Just silence. And I was fine with that. Actually, I liked it. It was the kind of silence that feels earned, like hanging up a bad call and realizing the world sounds better without static. I slipped back into routine. Work. Home repairs. Recaulking the bathroom. Installing a doorbell camera because Caleb swore I needed it. You never know when your dad might pop up like a side quest, he said. For once, life felt still, steady, until I checked my mailbox. I wasn't expecting anything, just ads, credit card offers, and another flyer for salsa lessons. Thanks, Caleb. But in the middle of the pile was a plain white envelope. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name. The handwriting stopped me. Not Mom's loops, not Laura's sharp edges, not Dad's angry block letters. But familiar somehow. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. Real pen on real paper. No sarcasm. No guilt. Just a few lines in neat handwriting. Evan, I know I've never said this directly, but I watched every step you took, even when the rest of them pretended not to. I saw the long nights, the wins, the silence you carried on your own. And I just want you to know, I'm proud of you. I never said it, because in this family, silence gets mistaken for strength. But I was wrong. You deserve better. You deserve to be seen. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No pressure. No expectations. Uncle James. I sat down, the letter trembling slightly in my hands. Uncle James, my dad's older brother. The quiet one who always lingered in the background at family gatherings, sipping coffee like it was an act of meditation. He never joined the jokes. Never joined the criticism either. Just existed quietly at the edges. He was the one who slipped me a used laptop after mine died during finals, with a sticky note that said, try this. The one who once pressed a few bills into my hand at a gas station and muttered, you didn't get this from me. I'd always assumed his silence meant he didn't care. But now, maybe it meant he was surviving in the same storm. Maybe silence wasn't apathy, it was restraint. And now, after all this time, he'd broken it. Not with guilt or demands, but with something that felt almost foreign in my family. Accountability. The next day, I dialed the number I still remembered from years back. His landline, unchanged since forever. He picked up on the second ring. Hello, Uncle James. It's Evan. There was a pause, then a slow exhale, the kind of breath someone lets out when they've been holding it for years. Hey, kid. We didn't dive into emotion right away. That wasn't him. We talked about the weather, the porch he was fixing, his neighbor's runaway goat. But about 10 minutes in, he said something that froze me. You know, your folks used to brag about you. Back before they realized you weren't going to turn out just like them. I didn't answer. He continued. They never figured out how to feel pride without control. If they couldn't take credit for your success, they'd rather ignore it. Yeah, I said quietly. That tracks. He paused again. But I saw it, Evan. All of it. And I just want you to know, not everyone in this family missed the point. That hit harder than any insult ever had. Because it wasn't flattery, it was recognition. And sometimes, that's all you really want. To be seen. Completely. Without conditions. Before we hung up, he added, if you ever need anything, not money, not advice, just someone who doesn't think you're a mistake, I'm here. I thanked him, hung up, and sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, realizing how strange it is to spend so much of your life believing you're invisible, only to discover someone was watching the whole time, quietly rooting for you. Only to realize someone had been there the whole time, not judging, not correcting, just waiting. Waiting for the moment I stood on my own 2 feet so they could finally say, asterisk, I knew you could. Asterisk, it was late on a Thursday. I had just finished patching a dent in the garage wall, the aftermath of me trying to park with confidence, and I was mid-victory dance with a paint roller when my phone buzzed. Dad. I froze. His name looked strange lighting up my screen. It was the first time he'd called since that stiff 5-minute house visit, the one where he complimented my baseboards like they were art, then left without saying a single honest thing. I let it ring twice, then 3 times. And just before voicemail took it, I answered. Evan. His voice sounded exactly the same, steady, cautious, like every word had to pass quality control before being spoken. Hey, I, hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I said nothing, just waited. He cleared his throat. So, we've been thinking. Your mother and I. There it was. Asterisk, we've been thinking. Asterisk, code for asterisk, we want something. Asterisk, your sister's lease is up, he said finally. And she's had a rough go lately. You know, since that little falling out. And we thought, since you've got some extra space, I actually laughed. Loud. You want Laura to move in with me? Just for a bit. A few months, tops. You've got the room. And, well, family helps family. Right, I said. Like how you helped me during college. Silence. Or at graduation. Or when I bought the house. Or when Laura called me a failure every chance she got. He hesitated. That was the past. We're trying to move forward. You mean now that she needs somewhere to crash? She's your sister, Evan. I took a long breath and walked into the living room. The one I'd painted myself. The one with the windows I'd cleaned until the light came through soft and golden. The rug I'd unrolled while eating gas station sandwiches at midnight. Every inch of it carved out of my own effort. My own stubbornness. My own peace. No, I said. Excuse me. No, I repeated. She doesn't get a room here. Not after everything. Not after what she said. Not after what you said. So you're just going to turn your back on your own family? You did that first, I said calmly. Back when you told me my degree was just paper. Back when you toasted Laura's promotion and told me I was too sensitive when no one showed up for mine. We didn't think you'd take it so personally, he muttered. I smiled. Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Another long silence. He wasn't used to me steering the conversation. You really want to burn the bridge, huh? He asked finally. No, I said. I just built a better one. One that leads away from you. And I hung up. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just clean, solid finality. Later that night, I stepped out onto the porch. The air was cool, soft. Down the street, someone's sprinkler clicked rhythmically. Neighbors laughed somewhere in the distance. For the first time in years, I didn't feel bitter. I felt free. They hadn't shown up when I walked that graduation stage. They hadn't clapped when I made something of myself that didn't revolve around Laura. But I didn't need their applause anymore. I had walls that held steady, floors that creaked in comforting rhythm, a deed with my name, and peace that didn't come with conditions. They still had each other, and I finally had everything I'd built without them.